Just when he came to our battalion, it is hard from memory to say. With most men, the days following the capture of Vimy Ridge are a confused jangle in the brain. The different operations, the attacks, the counterattacks, and the raging battle, simply to hold a position, roll together until only from a diary is memory able to separate the different strands. In those days, new men were coming to us after every fight. The battalion was a moving procession. Inside 2 weeks, there came to us 26 new officers. It needs no stretch of imagination to picture what that meant. And sometime in this period, Oliver came to our battalion. He had enlisted in the ranks. His courage, work, and ability were recognized. He had earned his commission in the field. I can see him still as I first saw him, standing at the foot of Vimy Ridge, a short, stout, bronzed, sturdy figure, with pleasant, good-humored eyes and lips ever ready to smile. Strong and fit, with an honest, open countenance that the heart warmed to. Always there was the same even disposition, always the same ready smile, always the smack of health and freshness about him, always feeling that life for him was good. There were times when the cold was bad, days when the mud was deep, hours when weariness made it hardship to be ordered in with a working party to the drab, monotonous, unromantic part of the war. But in all, his one unfailing characteristic was cheerfulness. Often too would he sit in some quiet moment and speak of his studies and of the work he was to do after the war. But his studies and his work were to make an end in France. Through our attacks on the ridge, he had come unscathed. Out in the plain beyond our line had been advanced till the enemy stiffening brought it to a halt. Then followed a series of fights. In a single week, the brigade made 3 attacks and repelled 7 counterattacks. 2 battalions had taken the triangle at heavy cost. On the night of May 6th, we took over. The new line was very difficult. It ran along on a slight rise, and the least movement was seen by the enemy, who could look right into our trench. A truce was made of an hour's length, respected by both sides, during which the field was cleared, either side taking their wounded to the middle of no man's land and getting their own in exchange. When the truce was over, the old game went on its wonted way, snipers making it a very unhealthy shot. On the night of May 9th, 3 deserters came stealing into our lines. This mightily heartened our boys. At exactly 12 midnight, May 9th, our men went over. In a very few minutes, the signals went up everywhere, indicating that our objective had been taken, a piece of trench immediately in front. That was vital to our position. It was the 34th Prussians this time that faced us. There were the usual prisoners, but the fighting was stubborn and severe. Our men took the trench and blocked the communication trench, which ran right through the middle of the plain at right angles through both fronts. At 9 p.m. May 10th, the enemy counterattacked. He was driven back and our artillery hammered him for hours. When all became quiet, he came on again, and again the attack was broken up. At length, at 3 a.m. May 11th, a third attack formed with a new engine of war, which till this time no man in the battalion had seen, and about which they knew nothing. It was the Flammenwerfer, or liquid fire. This is an apparatus carried on the soldier's back, with a nozzle like a garden hose. The soldier advances and plays the nozzle on the enemy. The gas it contains rushes out into the air, and striking an object generates a tremendous heat. There were ways of avoiding it, but these were not then known to us. This particular part of the front was in Oliver's charge. The men broke before the strange and terrible fire. Oliver had no time for seeking advice. Well he knew the importance of that bit of trench, what its loss would mean, what effect a small breach there would have on the fortunes of the day. He knew not how to meet it, but he knew the enemy must be held back. What he could do, he did. Rallying his men, With his revolver and a supply of bombs, without a moment's hesitation, he led the way. The fire struck him full and square. His charred trunk fell on the instant like the wings of a moth in a candle flame. In the thick of battle, the work of Moses Oliver was finished. Of the rest of the story, of how the line was held, the enemy driven back, of the courageous deed of another falling in the moment of triumph, it is not the purpose of this short paragraph to tell. Suffice to say that though the eyes of Moses Oliver were turned to the future, the days of peace and the life work he had chosen, the Christian ministry, yet if life for him was to end in France, then he died the death he would have chosen, an instantaneous, painless death, at the head of his men, in the teeth of the enemy, amid the shock of arms. Up on the summit of Vimy Ridge, on the top of a little mound passing down in history as the Pimple, the scene of the last fight which carried the ridge, stands a huge concrete pillar and cross. There, looking down on the ruin of Sauchez and back on the Lorette spur, gazing across the waste battle-torn ground of Vimy Ridge itself, and looking beyond the ridge down over the ruins of many another fight, Givenchy, La Coulette, Leven, and Lens, in a commanding spot where all the country round may see. The pilgrim and the curious and the reverent French peasant, lifting his hat to the redeemers of his country, may seek and find upon the panel the name of Moses Oliver, lieutenant, placed there by his comrades. Its carving may grow dull, its letters dim. Time may forget, but eternity remembers those who, like him, were faithful unto death.